Okay, my name is Leslie Garcia. Amy.
Naheem.
Emily.
And this is our PowerPoint on Rachel Price. Okay, we have two theme statements that we talk about just this PowerPoint. The first one is, in the Poisonwood Bible by King Solomon, Rachel Price gives a hypercritical point of view on the Congos with an egoistic tone that reveals the mentality of conquerors who do not assimilate to the culture and just arrive in order to benefit themselves and abuse of the residents in the country for their own prosperity.
And the second one is, the Poisonwood Bible by King Solomon scrutinizes the cultural arrogance of America through Rachel Price, a narcissistic daughter of a missionary family in Africa, and ultimately reveals that we as a nation are selfish, unwelcoming to change, and judgmental towards those who are different from us.
Who is Rachel Price? Rachel Price is the eldest daughter of the Price family. She is egoistic, narcissistic, ignorant, and vain. She narrates herself as a materialistic person seen in the book. The attitude toward posing seems to be, if you have it, why not wear it? Even though she does not say she's materialistic, it's quite obvious in her own narration. Indirectly, her whole family sees her as a pretty ignorant and vain person. When Ada says, my sisters all seem to determine to fly, or in Rachel's case, to ascend to heaven directly due to superior mindset. This shows that the whole family has noticed that Rachel herself is very above everyone else, and that she is willing to do anything to make sure she is better than everyone else, even if that means having to have a superior mindset.
So Rachel faced many conflicts in the Poisonwood Bible, and most of them are with herself. Living in a village that is predominantly African while being a white race, she faced basically being an outcast, and she didn't want to assimilate. She obviously castigated them as inferior to herself, and she did not cope with the ideal of being a minority, not within herself, but with nature. She faced a conflict with the invasion of the ants, where she decided to save a mirror and risk her life instead of running away from the ants and being safe. And one of the quotes that explains this is, not my clothes, there wasn't time, and not the Bible. It didn't seem worth saving at that moment, so help me God, it had to be my mirror. This quote basically explains how selfish she was and how concerned with her looks and her reputation. The setting was also very crucial in the Poisonwood Bible. 4 aspects that we chose to describe the setting was geography, culture, religion, and occupation. And we said most of these kind of reflected as a conflict for the family, the Price family in the Poisonwood Bible. And geography acted as a challenge, mostly just because the vegetation was different, the topography was different, basically the whole society was different, so it was hard for the whole family to function. Like, for example, there was a point in the book where it described vegetation, how they brought vegetation from America to the Congo, but they have different, very different topography, so the vegetation obviously failed to go there. Also, culture, religion, and occupation were challenges in the setting, and religion functioned as the downfall because ultimately, while trying to press Christianity on a civilization, realistically it illustrated that other religions that aren't Christianity are false and untrue, and also ignorance can rise regardless of a feeling of religion superiority due to Ruth's death in the book. And occupation functioned as how to decipher superiority from inferiority, because obviously Nathan Price, he was higher by being in his skin color, so that functioned as him being superior to the natives living in the Congo.
So the significant events, well, first was the exposition where they first take the trip to Africa, and in the beginning it's clear that Rachel she's pretty comfortable with her life, and she doesn't want to change. She doesn't want to go to Africa. And then after that, the inciting incident is when Axel Roots planned assassination on Lumumba. He's talking to Rachel in private, and then after that, she doesn't see it as anything really important to go do anything about. And then after that, the rising action was the ant attack, when the whole village was swarmed with ants, and it was just basically just running through everything in their way. And then after that, Ruth May dies, and then the following action, Rachel pretends to be married to Axel Root, so that
she pretends to be married to Axel so that when she's in South Africa, she could be seen as more like a superior person because she is married to someone. And because of that, she's able to meet the French diplomat who she is able from that point meet a person who gives her the hotel at the end of the story.
Yeah, and here in the resolution, we can see she receives a luxury hotel, and then the end is basically where she meets up with the family at the hotel.
The reason the rise in action is the Anatek because the first time we see Rachel kind of go to the ignorant side and say, not kind of save her life, but rather save the materials that were valuable to her. And even though overall the story's climax is the death of Luce May, for Rachel that also is the climax because she comes to realize that she can't now just leave the Congos and be like, oh, this wasn't any important part of my life, there was nothing here, it was just a really sad story of me being in the Congos. Because now she has to go back and realize that her sister had died in this place. This is now a very significant part of her life story. And because the falling action is the way she pretends to be married to Axel is because she starts to kind of come towards the thing she wants throughout the book, which is to be superior. And when she pretends to be married to Axel in South Africa, she tends to talk to people that she wants to talk to and not just more like the below people in the Congo. Okay, so there are 6 books throughout the Praise Word Bible. The first one is Genesis, and it opens with, and God said unto them, be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. So this shows how they were trying to command the people in the Bible to follow what was right, and that's what happened when Nathan had arrived to the Congos. They arrived and tried to help the people in the Congos, and his belief was that he was there to save them, and they went over there with the best of hope. But as the subtitle says, the thing we carry, it matches with their beliefs that they thought they were going to be over there and trying to control everything that was going to happen, and that there was misconceptions. And as Rachel said, we are supposed to be calling the shots here, but it doesn't look to me like we're in charge of a thing, not even ourselves. So for Rachel, this part of the book kind of shows that she's trying to realize that she's not going to be in charge as much as she thought she was going to. The next part of the book is the Revelation, and it starts off with, and I stood upon the stand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up. If any man have an ear, let him hear. This relates to Nathan Price, because Nathan Price in a sense is the beast in the Congo, because he doesn't have any good intentions toward bringing good things to the Congo, but rather he just brings annoyance, anger, and abuse towards the Congolese. The subtitle of this book is The Things We Learn, and it relates to how the Price females in the family are starting to realize that their life isn't going to be as they have pictured. So the Price family comes to realize they expect their life will not work, and Rachel learns that the Congo is not for her. I stay in the quote. I stood out the window wondering who wouldn't want to leave the Congo before you could say Jack Robinson had a chance. So this shows how Rachel was not, she started having the mentality that she had to leave the Congo, and then she's learning that this place isn't for her, she has to find a way out. I'm about to cough.
Okay, so this slide is the judges, and the subchapter was the things we didn't know. Basically, what happened in this part was the Price family starts to make their own judgment calls, and Rachel starts to devise a plan to leave the Congo. Basically, how the plans that she devised to leave the Congo were affiliated with marrying someone to raise a higher status for herself, because she's not in America anymore. And the quote to describe this is, and y'all shall make no league with the inhabitants of this land.
This shows that Rachel started realizing that she wasn't gonna connect with people in the land, but rather she was gonna try and raise above all that. And this is why the subtitle is called The Things We Didn't Know. Because they come to realize that Rachel is not she's not just the stereotypical white girl, but rather she's gonna continue on with that value and try to raise herself above the hope everyone else in the family. And so they see, everyone in the Price family sees the good and bad living in the Congo, and this will affect the viewpoint on the rest of the book. So at the end of the story, they come to realize that Rachel is pretty narcissistic and is pretty accurate when at the end of the story they have the hotel, and Rachel isn't letting Leah bring in her husband, who is of African American descent, because he is a person of color, and she's not allowed that in her hotel. The next part of the book is Blood of the Serpent, and it starts off with, Do you not think that God is a living God? Do you not see how much he eats and drinks every day? This kind of relates to the book because it kind of sees serpent is the reason why Ruth May died. And Baal, the living God, relates to Nathan because the people of the council kind of see him as a living God and not a very good God, to be honest. And the subtitle of the book is What We Lost. And what they have lost was Ruth May. And they're not sure how they're going to cover from this after all that. And as Rachel says, until that moment, I always believed I could still go home and pretend the Congo never happened. So what they lost is that Rachel pretty much lost the idea she had that she was going to leave the Congos and not have to talk about it when she got home. But now she comes to realize that she has to tell a story about the Congos, whether or not she likes it or not, because it's going to affect her throughout her life. One of the last books is Exodus, and it starts off with, "And ye shall carry up my bones away hence with you." And they took their journey and encamped in the edge of the wilderness. And the Price family, except for Nathan, leave the Congos. And they leave the Congos pretty much because it's not the best place for them. They're starting to get pretty hated in the Congos because of Nathan. And the subtitle of this book is What We Carried Out. And it's pretty ironic because at the beginning of Exodus says, "Carry my bones up with you," but yet they didn't carry Ruth May's bones with them, but rather they buried her in the Congos and that a tombstone there for her. And they carried out the heavy experience in the Congo with them, especially Rachel, who now has come to realize that the Congos is a significant event for her, even if she wants to admit it or not.
Rachel's point of view is that she's very narcissistic, and her narrative juxtaposes those of her sisters. For example, Ruth May's, because she is a child, she has more childlike tendencies as she observes the world around her, instead of Rachel, who stays in her own self-absorbed world. So her humorous but cynical or narcissistic narrative serves as a comic relief for the story being told by her sisters.
Significance of ending.
The Song of the Three Children, the epilogue narrated by the remaining sisters, Leah, Rachel, and Anna. At the end, Rachel's still unchanged in her personality 50 years later, because 50 years later she's still in a luxury hotel living out her dreams, and it's not exactly what she wanted, but it's in a place of sobriety, which is what her goal was. The Song in the Trees, also, Ruth May forgives Orleana and tells her to look forward at the end of the last chapter of the book, and she has found a safe place amongst the green mamba trees. One of the quotes from Rachel to describe this is, "You don't have to be afraid of them anymore because you are one."
So at the end of Song of the Trees, you come to realize that Ruth May, similar to the medallion she got before her death, was that the medallion when given to her said that if anything bad would happen to her, she would go to her safe space, the safe space being the green mamba trees. And so when she was praying to Orleana, she's saying, "I am here amongst the trees," which is very similar to when they saw her death. The sisters were like, "We swear we saw her go through the trees," which is where she is currently. And the Song of the Children, you just kind of have a petition of all the sisters, and you come to the end that Rachel is not like living the life she wants, but still in Africa. And she does have a bit of regrets not going back to America, but she is still content with her life at the end of the story. And that is our presentation.
Thank
on
you.
Rachel Price.
Thank you.
Thank you.